I'm Alex Hirsch. Grunkle Stan's screaming voice is kind of my normal voice.
I'm Mike Rianda. I was the creative director on this series and co-wrote this episode with Alex.
So this episode has an interesting origin. This episode came from animation is very production heavy. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of work and a lot of backgrounds and a lot of art. And we were a little behind in production, as we always were. And our producer had a really great suggestion, which was, can you come up with an episode that has less backgrounds?
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a bottle episode, an episode where really hardly anything happens. It takes place in the same location.
Yeah.
And I had a really ambitious thought was, what if Dipper, Mabel, Stan fall into a bottomless pit and it's black for the entire episode?
Yeah.
And we just, through the brilliance of our writing, are able to make it compelling that they're just falling for 21 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll save backgrounds. Turned out, definitely not a smart enough writer to pull that off. Couldn't think of a plot. And we thought, then maybe let's just have 3 short stories, which ended up having 3 times as many backgrounds.
Especially one that takes place in a gigantic pinball machine that's gorgeous.
Yeah. So what started as a well-mannered idea to come up with an episode that would be easier to produce ended up in an insanely difficult to produce episode. Good intentions resulting in complete chaos.
Yeah. And this also another reason why we came up with this episode is like a three stories in one was we had this episode called Twinstitute because it seems like since Dipper and Mabel are twins and since we kind of knew down the line we'd be hinting at this like larger twin thing with Stan and Ford that we were like, oh, okay, we're gonna and there's the Shining twins are funny.
There's a lot of tropes about spooky twins.
Yeah.
Twins in media tend to be kind of creepy, and it seems like, we could do a whole episode about that.
Yeah.
And that episode almost killed us.
You super can't do a whole episode about that. I mean, maybe you couldn't. We just never figured it out.
We did many drafts of an episode about Dipper and Mabel going to an institute with all these other pairs of twins and learning about what made them special, and it never came together.
Yeah, and it was a lot of Alex being like, we are the 2 dream twins.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. These kind of children of the corn twins. And when we realized it didn't work, we had a hole in our schedule. And me and Mike realized it's easier to write 3 short episodes than 1 long episode.
Totally.
And we had that idea for a Bottomless Pit episode, which is where this came from.
Yeah.
And this is basically just us goofing around.
Yeah.
One of our producers, Rob Renzetti, genius, could not have done the show without him. He's brilliant.
Love you, Rob.
Bobby
Renzabi.
He was sort of he was the one with actual experience on the show.
Yeah.
Kind of, the adult in the room while me and Mike were goofing off. And he said when I proposed this idea that you cannot make this episode. He said, this is essentially this is just sort of a goof off, almost clip show style episode.
Yeah.
And this is something that a series would do in season 3 or 4. He's like, you haven't earned the right to just do a dumb episode about nothing yet.
Yeah, he's like, you haven't earned the right to really pat yourselves on the back and really hey, let's get experimental with the form.
But we were just like, we need an episode due tomorrow. We're writing this. So me and Mike just split up. I think, if I remember correctly, I think I took this first story.
Yeah, we kind of split up the middle one, and then I took the last one, I think. Yeah,
I think you did the first pass on the last one.
Yeah,
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. It's always super collaborative. Alex taking the final pass at all the scripts and stuff, but generating a ton of content and just reading it to each other, trying to make each other laugh, staying up till 3 a.m. I remember this episode in particular where with Dipper's voice, we could not crack what the 3rd story was going to be. And it was literally 4:15 in the morning, and the script is due the next day, and the whole script was due, the whole 7-minute script, and we were just miserable. And it was maybe Dipper, maybe there's something about, oh God, I'm so tired. Planes, and then I was like, oh, what if Dipper has a voice, and then I was falling asleep as I was saying it, and Alex was like, that could be funny. Let's both split up and write it. And then I started writing and then fell asleep at my computer. And then Alex came up with the episode, and I was like, this is great, man. Let's just use this.
Yeah, when you woke up, I had written it.
And I felt so guilty, even though it was 5 a.m. I'm like, Alex, I failed you. I fell asleep at 4:15.